It was a bird, Tori. Hieronymus's face is set when he returns that night, but I just shake my head. He says he saw long red hair. Since when do birds have long red hair? I saw the memory for myself, Tori, Hieronymus says with that same somber voice. He didn't see anything. I went to the trails. I investigated the area. Damien is dead. You have nothing to worry about. I had plenty to worry about. Even if Damien wasn't among them, it didn't really make my current situation any better. I still didn't know what I was going to tell Hieronymus about our wedding. Was I brave enough to tell him the truth? Or was that a secret I should keep to myself? I don't say anything. Idly, I consider asking him to talk to me about his family history and how it plays into the other world. But I don't. I already know that he won't tell me anything. He's mad at me for keeping this from him, for causing a scene, but I don't feel like apologizing. We were in a relationship built on lies. How long could we last before we eventually crumbled underneath them? The Callister boy wants answers, he tells me. He wants to know what happened last year. I reasoned that you want to be the one to tell him. I just nod my head stiffly, staring at that same spot on the floor near the door. I hadn't felt this numb and detached since I had made the choice for my parents to forget me. If I hadn't, then maybe I would be with them right now, and this whole argument could have been avoided. But the truth would have had to come out eventually, wouldn't it? I couldn't go on forever keeping this secret from him. But then again, how long did he intend to keep the truth from me? On your feet, Hieronymus says, but makes no move to help me up as I stand slowly, using the bed to prop myself up. Since you're in no state to teleport yourself, I will escort you to his room. Let me know when you wish to return. I just nod again, wordlessly. Hieronymus hesitates, as if he wants to say something more, but stops as he leads me outside. In an instant, I'm standing in the middle of Wolf Hall, which seems more deserted than usual. Tori? Daniel asks as he opens up his door. Are you all right? What is going on? I turn to look at Hieronymus, but he's already teleported away. I'm sorry, I manage. I don't physically have the liquid in me to cry anymore, but my body shakes with dry heaves, as if I'm about to have another breakdown. Here, let's get you inside, Daniel says quickly as he grabs my arm and pulls me into his room. He takes me by the shoulders and steers me to sit down onto the bed before sitting at his desk chair. I'm sorry to pull you into it, I tell him. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for Hieronymus to look at your memory, especially when you were so mad at him. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Tori, he says gently. He seems more confused by my behavior than anything, which was fair. I'd always tried to look cool, aloof, and unruffled. I didn't know how to tell him that this was who I really was, this sloppy mess of turbulent emotions wrapped up in the shape of a girl. Start at the beginning, he says gently. What happened? Last year, a senior boy that had been expelled, a demon named Damien, wiped my memories so I forgot who Hieronymus was. We spent most of the year on really awful terms with each other because I couldn't remember who he was, and yet he still felt so familiar to me. He was too afraid to tell me the truth because if he did and I wasn't able to handle it, I could get stuck in the memories and never come out. Meanwhile, Damien pretended to be a freshman boy named Tommy who had a crush on me. I liked him as a friend, but never really that way. One day, Tommy tried to kiss me, and after I pushed him away, he started stalking me. I was too afraid to go to Professor Potsdam or any of the other teachers about it because I figured they would just say I was overreacting. So I just hid in my room all the time. One day I came back from class to see a note from Ellen to meet her in the gym. But it wasn't from Ellen. Damien, kidnapped my roommates and lured me to the gym where he tried to kill both me and Hieronymous. He gave me the choice of who should die first, and I told him to kill me, so he did, in the very literal sense. Ms. Darden used hoodoo magic to bind my life force to that of another teacher's, and that is the only reason why I'm still alive. Wow, Daniel says quietly. And that's why you freaked out? You thought he was going to attack you again? Yeah, I say quietly. He attacked me one night when I was walking on the trails alone, when the campus was deserted. And he has long red hair, so it all fit. Daniel nods in understanding. But what happened to him? I don't know, I say quietly. Potsdam told me she turned him over to face otherworld justice. Hieronymous just told me that he asked his father to kill him and that he's dead and gone. Who knows what the real story is? Daniel considers this a moment. I don't think Professor Grabiner is the kind of person who would just be okay with Damien getting away with something like that. Damien actually killed you. He's not going to just let that go. Yeah, it all makes sense, I say quietly. We sit in silence for a while. Why you? Daniel asks suddenly. Why did Damien come after you? Because you're a Grabiner? He wanted to steal my soul before he realized I was a Grabiner, I explain. I don't know why me. He was my senior for freshman orientation. I guess he targeted me even back then. I heard he got expelled for doing something inappropriate to another freshman in the gym that spring, but I never thought he would come back to attack me. We sit in silence for a few more moments before Daniel speaks again. Well, I think he's gone, Daniel says with confidence in his voice, and I just raise an eyebrow as I look up at him. Oh yeah? I ask. What makes you so sure of that? Hieronymous is a lot of things, but he's not a liar, Daniel says. I can understand that he wouldn't want to tell you certain things to protect you, but Damien already came after you once. If you had to be on your guard that he would come back to hurt you, Hieronymous would let you know. That's fair, I say quietly. I don't honestly know what else I should say. There's so much about the other world I don't know. I wasn't raised in this life. I was raised as a wild seed. What if I can't make it? Can't make it? Daniel repeats in confusion. What if I can't make it as a witch? I ask quietly. What if I'm just not cut out for this life? Maybe I should just ask them to strip my magic and go back to the low world. Daniel stares at me, his eyes wide. A life without magic? Who would want that? I don't know, I reply sullenly, but sometimes I think ignorance is bliss. Maybe, Daniel admits, but you can't just leave Hieronymous here all alone. From what I've seen, you're the only friend he has. What would he do if you're not around? He managed for a decade, I remind him. He's been alone before. He can get used to it again. Daniel seems hesitant for a moment before he decides to just go ahead and ask what's really on his mind. Are you sure you're not just projecting? He asks suddenly. It almost seems like you want to be the one to leave, so you don't have to worry about being left behind. I guess that's fair. It's easier to be the one doing the dumping than to be the dumped. Daniel looks confused for a moment. Wait a minute, did you break up with your boyfriend today too? Man, you really have had a rough day. We had a fight, I say quietly. There are things I don't tell him. There are things that he doesn't tell me. We keep secrets to protect each other, to protect the relationship. At least, that's what I've always told myself. Now I'm starting to think that we just keep secrets to drive ourselves apart. When you don't have a common enemy to fight, who do you fight but each other? Daniel frowns at me. I can see now why Hieronymous told me to focus on my studies before relationships. Dating seems complicated. I can't help but let a small smile pull at the corners of my lips. You have no idea. Do you want to stay here tonight? Daniel asks suddenly. You can sleep in my bed if you want. You seem like you really shouldn't be alone right now. I don't want to be. I mope at him as I lie down on his pillow. Are you sure this is okay? Yeah, Daniel replies. To be honest, I've always wondered what it would be like to have a roommate, so you can be mine. At least for one night. Just trying to give you the real high school boarding experience, I tease as I let out a yawn. I hadn't realized that I was tired, but as I shut my eyes, I fall instantly asleep. Hieronymous knocked on the door to Daniel's room as quietly as he could. Tori still hadn't returned, but her heartbeat was steady. That was a good sign, although he couldn't allow himself to feel relieved. Not right now. He hears shuffling for a moment as Daniel comes to the doorway. He steps out into the hall, closing the door behind him as he puts a finger to his lips. Shh, he says quietly. She's sleeping. Hieronymous raises an eyebrow. In your room? Daniel just shrugs. I just felt that she shouldn't be alone right now, that's all. She explained to me what happened with Damien. She was really upset, and I'm worried about her. Hieronymous frowns. What else did she tell you? I don't know if I should say, Daniel says softly. Hieronymous is about to resort to idle threats, but as it turns out, he didn't need to. But I'm worried about her. She said she wanted to give up her magic. What? Hieronymous stands there in the dim light of the corridor, stunned. Tori wanted to give up her magic? But when? But why? Was this because of Damien? Was it because of their fight? Or was there something more that she wasn't telling him? She had a fight with her boyfriend, Daniel continues. I don't think she'd appreciate it if I told you that, but you seem to know him. Can you talk to him? I can't imagine why he would want to make Tori so upset, but she said something about him keeping secrets. He is not the only one keeping secrets, Hieronymous says as he narrows his eyes, and Daniel has the decency to look confused. Okay, maybe they're keeping secrets from each other, but one of them has to be the grown-up, Daniel replies. I know I haven't dated anyone yet, but I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I made the person I cared about most as upset as Tori is right now. Hieronymous considers this for a moment. I'll talk to him, he says at length, but one person can only do so much. Both people need to be ready and willing to make a relationship work. Well, Tori wants to, Daniel says. And if he won't listen to you, have him talk to me. Tori's my friend, and she's always been there for me. If I can be there for her, I want to be. Hieronymous considers this a moment. There had always been something about Tori that seemed to inspire a unique sense of loyalty to her. At first he had thought that it was only due to their relationship, but it seemed that it was something that her friends were able to perceive as well. Tori was special. He didn't know why or how, but he knew he didn't want to lose her. He couldn't. I think they'll be able to work it out, he says at length before he turns and heads back towards his quarters. He entertained the notion of sleep, but without Tori there beside him, the notion suddenly seemed impossible.